Hi! In this video we're going to talk about adding and subtracting in different bases. You might remember in the previous homework I issued a counting challenge. I said if you're counting in base 5, what's the next number after 1, 2, 4? That is, what's 1, 2, 4, base 5, plus 1? So one way to think of this is to think about the BizBuzz counting game. The number 1, 2, 4 with a little 5, base 5, means we've counted 1 buzz, 2 biz, and then counted to 4 after that. So we have 1 in the 25's place, 2 in the 5's place, and 4 in the 1's place. What's next? What's the next number after 1, 2, 4? That is, I add 1 more, I count 1 more. What's the next number? So let's look at our people again. Really quickly counting 1, 2, 3, 4, biz, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, biz, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, buzz. Now, just to note, that means we now have 1 buzz, right? And let's keep counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, biz, 1, 2, 3, 4, biz, biz. So now we have 1 buzz, 2 bizzes, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're where I talked about before. Now we're at 1, 2, 4. What is the next person going to say? What does this person say? So that is, what's 1, 2, 4 plus 1 in base 5? What does this person say? So this person says biz, biz, biz. So we have 1 buzz, that's over here. 3 bizzes now, and we haven't counted any more 1s after that biz, biz, biz. So just look at this one more time. The answer is 130. So this is the same as adding in base 5. It's like adding 1, 2, 4 plus 1, all using base 5 blocks. So if we look at these base 5 blocks, if you get 5 of them, 5 of these units, you could trade them for 1 rod. So let's see, I do have 5 units altogether. I trade them for a rod. And so now I have still 1 base 5 block, 1 base 5 flat. Now I have 3 rods and no units left, which is the number 130. This is the same as 1 buzz, 3 bizzes, and no 1s after it. So I added 4 and 1, and I got 5, and I traded that 5 for 1 in the next place value up. That's like this. Plus 1 gets me biz, biz, biz. So the general principle when adding in base 5 is to gather 5 of one kind of block to trade for 1 of the next higher block. So let's try adding using that general principle. So here's the number 141, and I'm going to add it to the number 132. So I can add the units together here. 1, 2, 3 units added together. I can't do any trading because I don't have enough to get a rod. But I can add 5 rods together and trade them for 1 flat, since 5 rods is equal to 1 flat. So now I have 3 flats, 2 rods, because remember all of these other rods got traded. So I have these 2 rods left, and 3 units. So if you're adding in base 5, it looks like this. 1 plus 2 is 3. 4 plus 3 is enough to make a 5. So 4 plus 3 is 7, right? That's 1 5 with 2 left over. And now I add 1 and 1 and 1. That's 3. So one more time. The trade happens when I have 7 rods. 5 of them get traded for a flat. So 7 rods. 5 of them get traded for 1 flat, and I have 2 rods left. Now, subtracting works very similarly. Now we trade 1 of a higher block for 5 smaller ones. So here's a subtraction problem for you. we have 1, 2, 0. That is 1 flat, 2 rods, and no ones. And we want to subtract 1 unit from that. Right now, we can't subtract that 1 unit because we don't have any units to subtract it from. So we want to take one of these rods and trade it for what? What can you break up a rod into? You break up a rod into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little units, right? And so now we have a 1 flat, 1 rod, because one of them got traded, and these 5 minus 1 is 4 units. So that looks like this. We can't do 0 minus 1 unless we go into negative numbers, right? So otherwise, 0 minus 1, we need more in the ones place. So we take one of these rods and we use it to add 5 to the ones place. 5 minus 1 is 4. 1 minus nothing is 1. So we have 1, 1, 4 as our answer. In each place value, when we're adding in bases, we trade for one of the next higher place value. So for example, in base 7, if I get up to 7, I'm going to trade it for one of the next place value up. In base 8, if I get up to 8, I'm going to trade that for one of the next place value up, the next one higher. In base 3, if I get 3, I'm going to trade that for one of the next one up. And in base 12, I can have all the way up to 11, remember? But if I get up to 12, that's when I need to trade it for the next place value up. Pause the video and see if you can at least do part of each one of these. And then I will go over the answers. But try it first on your own and pause the video. So now I'm going to work through each one of those with you so you can see what the answers are and why. So in this first one, we're in base 7. We have 4 plus 1, which is just 5. There's no extra. We didn't get up to 7, so nothing happens there. So now we add 6 and 5. 6 and 5 is 11. That's 1, 7. So I'm going to say, all right, I got up to 7. I'm going to give 1 to the next place value higher. 7 plus what to get 11? Let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 4 more units left over after I trade. So here's the 4 units left over after I trade. And then I have 1, 2, 3 here. And a little 7. So just to make sure you have the idea, I have added 4 and 1 get 5, no problem. 6 and 5 is 11. That's 1, 7 up here. So I put a 1 here. And it's 4 left over. And now I have 1, 2, 3. All right, let's try the base 8. So with base 8, every time I get up to 8, I trade it for one of the next one higher. So let's see, 7 and 4. Let's see, that's 11. So 11 is 8 plus 3, right? So I have 1, 8 in the next place value up and 3 left over. And then in the next one, I got 6 and 6, that's 12, plus the 1 that I got from trading. So that's 13. 13 is 8 plus 5. So I have 1, 8 for the next column over and 5 left for the ones column. And finally, I have 4 and 2 and 1. That's 4, 5, 6, 7. So I write down 7. Now let's look at base 3. And if you're still scratching your head about base 8, you can rewind the video and watch it again just to really feel like you have it solid. Let's try base 3, or if you want to try base 3, if you didn't try it before, try it now. Pause the video and try it. All right, so 1 and 2 is 3, right? So, but in base 3, once you get up to 3, you trade it for one of the next one up. And I have none left over, right? And now I have 1 and 1, that's 2. And 2 and 1 is 3. Oh, I got up to 3. So that's 1 for the next column over and none left over. That 1 over there comes right down. And that's our fourth place value over. And so now we have 1, 0, 2, 0 with a little 3 in base 3. And now let's try base 12. 7 and 3 is 10. We do not carry for 10. We don't have enough to trade. We need to have 12 to trade. So if you remember, we just write T for 10. Or if you want to write a different letter for 10, just write A or B or X or Y, whatever you want to write, and just write equals 10 in the corner so I know what you meant by that. So that's 10. No carrying. 6 and 7, that's 13. That's 112 with 1 left over. And now we have 5 and 1 is 6. So we have 6, 1T with a little 12. How'd you do? So just a point, as you try these, you're welcome to use blocks if you want, or imagine the blocks. You don't have to do it like I just did, where I used the general trading principle and I just kept saying, oh, we got 7, oh, we got 8. You can really draw the blocks, circle the blocks, and show the trading of the blocks, and it really helps. And then once you get used to it, then give up the blocks. It's the same thing with kids. When they first work in base 10, it's probably best to use the blocks for a while before you go to the paper and pencil only version. So given that idea, let's try this with subtraction. And for subtraction, remember, every time you don't have enough to subtract, that's when you need to trade for one of the place values. So in other words, in base 7, I would trade 1 for 7 smaller ones. In base 8, I'd trade 1 for 8 of the smaller ones, and so on. That only is necessary when you don't have enough to do the subtraction in the place value that you're in. So give this a try if you can. Pause the video, try it. Even if you only get one of the 3 digits right, just give it a try. And then we'll look at my answer in a minute. So let's start with our base 7 one. We have 4 minus 1, which is 3. And that's 3 is not a problem. We just write 3. If you want, you can write your little 7 now or write it when you're done. Now let's look at the next one. 3 minus 5 is a problem. We don't have enough in that place value to do the subtraction, unless you go into negative numbers, right? So we're going to cross out the 2 and make it 1. And that means I'm going to take that 1, those are flats, that 1 flat, and I'm going to trade that 1 flat for 7 rods. And I'm going to add those 7 rods to the place value here. So it's 3 plus 7. So 3 plus 7 is 10, and now we can do the subtraction. 10 minus 5 is 5. And then we have 1 minus 1, which is 0. So that part has basically canceled out, and our answer is 5, 3 with a little 7. If you're feeling kind of confused, you might want to stop the video, draw out the blocks, and see the trading for yourself. Remember that 2 is 2 base 7 flats. Then you got 3 base 7 rods and 4 ones. And you can see that you could trade 1 flat for 7 rods. Okay, now let's try base 12. So here we are in the ones place, 3 minus 7, which I can't do right as they are. So I'm going to cross this 6 out, that's my rods, and make it a 5. So I'm going to take one of those rods, and that one rod can be broken up into 12 little units because we're in base 12. So that's going to allow me to add 12 more units to my ones place. So now I have 15 units minus 7 units. So 15 minus 7 is 8. And now I have 5 minus 2, which is 3. And I have that 5 there. So, and I'll remember to write in my little 12 when I'm done. So I have my answer is 5, 3, 8 in base 12. And finally, let's try the base 8 one here. So 2 minus 7 I can't do as is. I'm going to need to take one of these rods. Now there are 0 rods there, and that adds 8 little units to my ones place. So now I have 2 plus 8, which is 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. And now I have to do 0 minus 6, which I can't do, right? So I'm going to take one of these here. That makes that a 3. And that adds 8 rods to that place value. So now I have 8 minus 6 is 2. And I have 3 minus 2 is 1. And that makes the answer 1, 2, 3 with a little 8. So how'd you do in the base subtraction? If you still feel kind of stuck, remember, back up the video, watch it again, and also remember you can ask questions in the discussion. Let's look at base 2, binary, because that's kind of its own category of strange, right? So binary, I'm going to add 1 and 1 in binary. And when I add 1 and 1, I get 2, right? But you can only have 1 or 0 in binary. You can't have a 2. And so what happens is 1 and 1 is 2. I trade that 1, 2 to the next column over. I imagine a 1 here with no 1s left over. And so 1 plus 1 is 1, 0. In base 2. You can also imagine adding it in base 10. 1 and 1 is 2 in base 10, right? And then convert 2 into base 2, into binary. It's 1 in the 2's place and no 1s. When we subtract in base 2, remember we can still only have 1 or 0, 0 or 1 for a result. So our answer to 1, 0 minus 1 has to be either 1 or 0 here. So let's think about how this works. I can't do 0 minus 1, so I cross this 1 out and use it to give me 2 in this place value. 2 minus 1 is 1. Now, you might feel like you still need some more binary examples, so let's try a few out on our piece of paper here. Let's say I have 1, 0, 0, 1, 1 plus 1, 1, both in binary. What would we get if we tried to add those together? Let's see. So if I add 1 and 1, I get 2, right? So can't have 2 though. That is 1, 2 for the next column over. 1, 2. With none left over. And now I get 1 and 1 and 1 is 3. That's 1, 2 for the next column over with 1 left over, right? 2 and 1 is 3. And 1 and 0 is 1, and 0 here, and 1. Now let's try some subtraction here. So what if I had 1, 1, 0, 1 minus 1, 1. Let's give it a try. So, and these are both in binary. So 1 minus 1 is 0. That's no problem. Can't do 0 minus 1. So now I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to make that a 0. Use that 1 to add 2 to this column. Why does 1 add 2? Because in base 2, every time you take 1 of the next higher one, that's 2 of the one below it. So 2 minus 1 is 1. And here we have 0, and here we have a 1. So that's it for our PowerPoint for this section. If you still feel like you're confused on this base, remember you can ask questions. You can practice in the homework. You can check if your answer is correct and ask questions. Please, please ask questions.